So I have a slot board right here, and what I'm going to do is just glue these things down randomly. And what I'm focusing on here is process and the process of things I enjoy. So I did do a little bit of thought, ahead of time. Just stick this down. And so a lot of what you see on these individual pieces really won't even show in the end. Which the reason why I like that is that there's this element of surprise, right? So kind of randomly put these down. They're not in any particular order. I want to make sure that they're glued down well. It's hard to know exactly how much of this gel medium you need, but these papers are pretty thin. Now, I know you can't see anything that has to do with the grid. It's coming later. So I just have a wide variety of shapes, but there are letters, circles, squares, and then odd shapes, in addition to the crazy underpainting, right? So makes no sense, but again, I'm focusing on like, what process do I enjoy? So what I know about myself and about my art is that I like process. It has to be kind of fun and exciting and, kind of loaded with surprises, things I'm not expecting or not aware of. But I also like structure, and that's where the grid comes into play. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some of this gel medium across the top. So I'm going to just do like one layer at a time. What I'm doing is I'm just getting this gel medium here at the top, and I'm going to work on one row at a time. So I'm going to basically take these guys. I need to really place these carefully because I really wanted them to be very precise. I'll just stick these down. Because these were cut out with a punch, a hole punch that had a 1-inch square. These are all 1-inch squares. I'm just going to brayer as I go. I don't want it to be so obviously a grid. I want the grid to look subtle. What should I do with this bottom portion? I mean, I really like it as it is. It's definitely a little bit more active than I want it to be, but the stage where I'm at, it's interesting to me. What I ended up doing was just positioning this all around and then figuring out that I think this is the piece that I want now right down here. So you can kind of see how that definitely quiets things down. So I don't try to think too far ahead, just do one thing at a time. And right now, this is the one move that I think I can make that will move this in the direction that, that is exciting to me. So I'm kind of strategically thinking now, because this is now the active part. There's so much quiet, and now it's pointing the direction, the eyes onto this area. So now the question is, how do I make sure that, now that I've got your attention, and this is the area you're going to look at, what are you looking at? And what are you seeing? What's of interest? I do feel like I need to kind of just be a little careful here, not move too fast, slow down, and just really take a look at what's happening here. I like these little peeps of the turquoise showing through here. These little dark areas here relate to the dark down here. So there's a lot of very subtle things happening up in this upper half, these little areas of dark here. Obviously, the value difference between the dark here and this around it definitely says, that tiny area is high contrast. So here's my yellow orange, here's my turquoise. Again, they're aqua. It's my aqua. So staying with the same palette and knocking out something that like I'm pretty sure I can do without it. So it's definitely part of that editing process. What I like about this though is that the value is very close. Now I could leave like a little dark line down here. I did consider that. So I'm quieting down. This is part of the editing process because I am liking the composition so far. I'm trying to stay pretty much with it, but then making small tweaks. And then I'm looking for other areas, like where else can I perhaps calm this down? Like there's this area up here. There's this area over here. Do I really need this and that? Do I need this up here? Should I fill that in? How about this here? Should I fill that in? I think that this is too distracting. So when I cover my hand over it, I like the turquoise, but I'm not sure I need to have that. And I could go with just the orange color. So maybe I'll do that. And I wonder if this over here is too much. So quieting this down moves my eye to this shape. And then there's a dark over here. I could actually put a dark in here or something not quite as black as that, but like this dark here would be a bit of an accent color. And that is part of this palette. Okay, so I'm pretty pleased with where it is right now at the moment. So I think what I'm going to do is lightly sand it, and I'm going to do that outside, and then I will return and show you what that looks like. But I'm going to use a very fine grade sandpaper. You can see I've sanded it here, and I lightly sanded it, but because it's graffiti paper, it actually distressed very quickly, so I had to be kind of careful. So now I want to work back into where it's gotten too distressed, and I cut this piece out of the same graffiti paper. It has a tear in it, and I just want to place it somewhere to quiet down some of the distressed portions. This is one big piece that covers 5 different pieces of the grid. There are no cracks in between, so that disrupts a little bit the feeling of the grid, which you know, just a choice really, because there's nothing wrong with the grid showing, but I didn't want it to be too obviously a grid. I've got a structure of the grid, and it's these minute differences that I'm very, very interested in. Now that I have the underlayer of the grid, now I can basically come back and destroy it as much as I want. A few more little tweaks here. I've just been playing around with this area here because I wasn't real happy with it still feels like too busy, and I'm just going to add these little pieces here. So what I was doing is covering up some of the busyness that was underneath them. And it was the similar type of book paper. So these are some things that I'm just trying to be aware of. You know, do I really need to have that collage paper there? And if not, then I'm going to cover it up. Okay, so now I've been playing around with some other ideas, cutting out some more squares of this salmon-y color because I like it, and decided that I wanted to quiet down some of that bottom here. So I'm just continuing on with looking at it and thinking about it. The idea of this project here is to really get the feeling for, you know, space and not so much busyness. Like I really enjoyed this whole process, and so that's a good sign because I like the idea of having this underlying grid structure just as a, you know, I'm building on top of it. So that was the foundation, but as you can see, the grid is not going to be nearly as evident at the end, and you have full control over that. Definitely keeping an eye on, like, where's my eye going? Is it being moved around too much? And I think that was my feeling. This was a K, and what I want to do is kind of cover up this book page, which I'm not real happy with. That letter stands out more, so I think I like that. I'm feeling better. I think this is definitely part of my lexicon series. What I like about it is that, you know, there are some letters and numbers and things like that, but it's less obvious and in your face. I did add this piece up here just as an echo of what was down here. So there's kind of this, and this color. There's these guys here. In the final stages of this painting, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this quinacridone nickel azo gold, which most of you know that it's not being made anymore. There are substitutions, but I happen to have this pretty large bottle, which will probably last me a lifetime. So I have that. And what I'm going to do is just put a very light glaze over this. And at first it's going to look really strong because even though I'm going to dilute it, you know, what's going to happen is it's going to try to go into the nooks and crannies. So I'm going to start by adding some airbrush medium to the surface just because that's my diluter. I don't need a lot of it. Just put that on there and then kind of shake this up a bit and add a little bit. Like you don't need much, right? And so I'm just going to use my gloved hand here and smooth it around. So now it's been diluted a bit with that airbrush medium. It's going to go over the entire surface. And again, I never know what to expect. I did put that gloss medium over it, so it should have like sealed all the raw paper. Because if you have raw paper, that'll soak up any glaze like a sponge. So that was the purpose of using that gloss medium, to make sure everything is kind of like this waterproof surface. So now that I've put it in here, it's not going anywhere, again, because of that gloss medium, which is a plastic, right? So now what I would do is kind of just get this wet a little bit, my paper towel here, and that just facilitates it picking up any excess glaze that I don't want. So I hope that's helpful. Thanks, everyone.